Welcome back to the Business of Biotech, your weekly dose of personal insight from the biotech builders on the front lines, where we don't just cover the trends influencing the space, we get to know the people who are setting those trends. I'm Matt Pillar, and I have a lot in common with our guest today. We both grew up in and around Buffalo, New York. He's a University at Buffalo grad, as am I. And he's currently shoveling money into Penn State's coffers to fund his son's education there, as am I. Bill Enright took his UB Master's in Biology to the biopharmaceutical industry, earned an MS in Business Management at Johns Hopkins, and it was off to the races from there. He's held leadership positions at a number of biotechs, including executive and C-suite roles at Life Technologies, Altimmune, GenVec, Avidea, and Gravitas. Today, he's more than 5 years into his tenure as CEO at Barinthus Biotherapeutics, where he's overseeing a portfolio of clinical stage immunotherapeutics for hepatitis B and celiac disease. On today's episode, we're going to get to know Bill. We're going to dig into a few of the inflection points that have shaped his career. And more importantly, we'll explore how he navigated those inflection points. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. Looking forward to the conversation.
As am I. Yeah, a couple of Western New York boys getting back together, talking shop.
Exactly. It was a fun game in Miami Thursday night.
It sure was. Yeah, this episode's going to drop in a few weeks from now. So just for the listeners' references, if you want to, the listeners' reference, you want to go back and watch that game. You and I were both reveling in that victory, I'm sure. So, Bill, thanks again for joining the show. And I want to kind of start with a conversation about, your beginnings in management and executive leadership in biotech, because, as I said, you got your bio masters at UB. Your first exposure to biopharma looks like it was at Life Technologies, which is now part of Thermo Fisher Scientific. Looks like that's kind of where you started to transition maybe a bit from scientific research into business development. So tell us a little bit about that transition, what motivated it, and maybe we'll get in a little bit into how you navigated that move.
Yeah, that's exactly where it started. So I had the good fortune of being with Life Technologies, which was a fairly large organization at the time, and they had a pretty unique opportunity where they would set up incubator companies within the larger organization. So they would put manufacturing, marketing, distribution, everything, research, kind of like in a wing of a building. And in a new area that they wanted to explore, and give the team an opportunity to see if they could create value in that space. And so I joined this cell and cell biology group as part of that, running the manufacturing team for that incubator company. And that's when I really figured out that I really liked the business side of science. And so went back and had the opportunity to get my master's degree from Johns Hopkins at the Carey School, and then transitioned into more business roles within Life Technology. So started out as a business analyst, and then was a product line business manager, more of a marketing role for that organization. So that's where really the transition occurred.
It's interesting, I think about now. I don't want to age you, Bill, but I will say that your departure from UB came just a few years before mine. I'm curious, like when you were there, earning your master's degree in biology, was there any more than likely with the intent to move into some, business role, I'm sorry, a role with a biologics business or in industry. Was there any exposure to the business side of biology, like what you could do on the business side with a career back
Not
then?
at all. Absolutely not. Everything was geared towards academia. It wasn't even industry at that point. It was, you're going to get your PhD to go into an academic job.
Yeah. So at what point, like, you had no idea, like when you were exposed to that incubator environment, going into that, you really had no idea that, hey, there might be a bit of a business minded or entrepreneurial minded element of Bill Enright?
No, it really triggers them. That really was the start of that. And I've been in the biotech space, over 35 years now,
Mhm.
and that really kind of triggered it.
Yeah. Did you when you went and got the masters from Johns Hopkins, did you do that with the intent to just commit and perhaps set yourself up for ensuing positions? As I noted, you went on to GenVec and Altimmune and others. Was that sort of the MO at the time?
Uh, I'm not one of these guys that really planned out my career. I don't think I could have planned it out if I tried, to be honest. I was pretty opportunistic and not afraid to take chances. I've told people before, I've never held a job that I've had before in my whole life since I was a teenager. So it's always been something new, something I've never done before, and even with the multiple CEO roles, it was so first time CEO at Altimmune. It's been out from University of Alabama at Birmingham, and then the second CEO role is a UK company. So commuting across the pond, and so very different kind of roles.
Yeah. Would you advise folks who are in the process of transitioning from science or research based careers into business management careers? Would you advise them to take the track that you did and say, you know what, I'm going to go get the masters. I'm gonna commit to the business, or are there other routes or paths that, in retrospect, you might suggest are good ideas?
So, I mean, there's certainly lots of different paths, but I found that one very helpful. So going back and getting my business degree really allowed me to speak a number of foreign languages, like finance and marketing and those kind of things, which really have a different vocabulary to science. And I found them very, very useful. And as a result, I do give back a lot to the Carey School. Do a lot of work with them, mentoring and judging science competitions or business competitions rather. I was on the Dean's Alumni Advisory Board for about a decade and in the, alumni associations and things like that. So still do a lot of work with the business school because I really think that was a major factor in kind of transitioning my career.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say, you've held multiple now CEO roles, but you've never had the same job you had before. I imagine that's probably more true in biotech than in most other industries where the experience. I mean, there are some fundamentals, and we'll get into some of the fundamentals and how you handle those fundamentals. But I would imagine that it's one thing if you're the CEO of a company that's in a certain class of widget making. In biotech, boy, it's going to be, seeing some of this for the first time myself here, no matter how many CEO roles you've had.
No, I absolutely agree. You've got a wonderful opportunity, especially when you're working with smaller organizations, to learn many different aspects of the business and kind of figure out where your aptitude is and what you like to do.
Yeah. You said Altimmune was your first CEO role?
Correct.
Correct. Yeah. And that was a doozy, man. Like I look at that and you told me when we talked earlier, you told me that you joined Altimmune in June 2008. Uh,
That's
rec
right.
recruited by a CEO who said, "You know what? I'm looking to scale things back a little bit. Bill, I think you're a good fit for this job. Are you interested?" And in retrospect, if I didn't know any better, if I thought the guy had bad intentions, I might suggest that he knew that something was brewing and that in September of that year, Lehman Brothers would crash, and you'd be at the helm of a company that was, facing the worst economic situation that you and I at that point had seen in our lifetimes, for sure. So tell me about that. I don't know. Like I could ask you, I could start asking you questions, but tell me that story.
That was a pretty interesting time. So, it was exactly as you said, how I came into the role, a mutual acquaintance put us together. And so I was on my first non-deal roadshow, trying to get out. I really took a chance with Altimmune. They had a very limited balance sheet at the time. A number of folks down in Birmingham with lab facilities, lab and office facilities down there in an incubator space. And, I thought I could come in and raise some money pretty quickly and really help the company. And yeah, then, all hell broke loose, as you noted, and so ended up having to restructure the organization, scale down the number of labs and things like that. Took a year without salary. Helped provide a loan for the company and to keep things afloat, and actually some of the tax initiatives that Obama initiated really were the savior for the company for a little while. And then one of the contracts that we were working on came through. And it was pretty much touch and go for the company. It was in April, and negotiating a potential sale of the company to a publicly listed company, and it was a terrible deal because we were on the throes of shutting the doors. And Friday afternoon, I was talking to my board and said, okay. We have a sunset clause in this agreement, so we have to decide by Monday whether we're taking the deal or we're going to close the doors. And so the board agreed to take the deal, and I hung up the call from the board and opened my emails, and I had an email in there from BARDA about a defense contract for an intranasally administered anthrax vaccine that we had been developing, and the saying we won a pretty significant contract award. And so I called back the board and said, I've got new information. I said, we won't be able to start getting revenue until September. Not sure how we'll get from April to September. And the board said, tell the company to go pound sand. We'll figure out a way to get from here to September. And I was able to bring in a loan from one of the local Birmingham banks to help keep the lights on and the doors open through the course of the summer. And all of my employees went without salary for the summer, and then made it happen. And that contract led to some interest from a number of VCs, and we did a merger with a UK-based company, and we were able to get the company public, and continues to grow now, and now the company's still alive and doing well. Much different area than when I was CEO. They're focused in GLP-1, in anti-obesity and NASH, but they were able to do that because of the funding and stuff that and the data that we had in our programs enabled them to continue to pivot and move, which is again one of the nice things about being in biotech.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that's, that just opens up a whole slew of questions. I mean, to hear you tell that story, one might seize upon the fortuitous nature of things like, this offer from BARDA, for instance. One might go, oh, well, things look pretty dire there. They got lucky. But there's more to it than that. Like there's the story of perseverance there. I mean, obviously, when you take a job like that, as I said, in June and by September, everything's falling apart around you. Because everything's falling apart around you, it probably wouldn't have been easy for Bill Enright to say, I'm going to jump ship because you looked around and all the other ships were sinking too. Like there's not really a safe ship to jump onto, right? So I get that. Part of it's like, well, I'm here now. Let's do what we can. But dig a little bit deeper into, I guess, some of the moves that you made, decisions that you made, that kept the thing afloat. I mean, you hinted at some pretty shoestring measures just to keep things going. But share a little bit more about, how even personal anecdotes about how you personally got through that time, accepted it, embraced it, and figured out, hey, the sun's going to come up another day.
Yeah, some of it, looking back, was probably definitely with my heart and not my head. I mean, I believed in the technology, thought we could make something happen, and was willing to go after it. And luckily for me, I had a supportive wife. I did go a year without salary, and like I said, I ended up, putting collateral up from my house as for a loan for the company to make things happen, and that ended up turning the corner for us. So, like you said, perseverance is a huge part of it. Several folks that I've interacted with over my career said I'm like a dog with a bone, so I'm not going to give it up. So yeah, I could have bailed. I probably could have bailed sooner. That was one of the calculus when I was taking the job. To be honest, was look at the company's in a bad financial situation. If I can come in and turn this thing around, that looks pretty good. If I fail quickly, then probably not too much of a mark on me because of where they were when I came in. But when you're in it for a couple of years and then you start failing, then it's on you,
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't going to let that happen. That was my mantra.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you go in thinking if we fail quickly, then hey, I can recover and move on. And then all of a sudden you have this failure accelerator set in, and you still won't give up the bone.
Yeah.
So kudos to you on that. I'm curious. There's one more question about that. Like you mentioned that your staff went for a summer without salary. So I'm curious about your leadership during that particular summer. You're the captain of this ship, and you're telling the crew like, hey, you're not going to get anything to eat for a while. Um, that's an easy inflection point for a mutiny, using the ship analogy.
No, it really is. And, again, biotech is a lot about selling the dream, right? I mean, most of us are non-revenue generating. You're selling a promise of what can come based on the technology that you have, based on the data, based on the vision that you have. And my team could see the vision, right? They knew we had a contract out there. So it wasn't indefinite, you're not going to get salary until something happens. You're not going to get salary until this point when we start getting when the contract becomes active and things like that. So they were willing to plow through it, and they trusted that they'd be able to get their back pay, and we were able to do that and make it all even again. And so and then some, because they got equity as a result in taking the sacrifices that they made, and so they were able to share as the company was successful.
Yeah.
So I think in the end, everybody got rewarded.
How important was it to you that at the time that those folks saw you putting your own skin in the game and putting your own livelihood and personal life on the line?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that shows conviction. They really understood that I was convinced that the technology had a place, and that we were going to ultimately be successful. And so I think they were willing to stand behind me.
Yeah. That's that Western New York blue collar mentality setting in. The grit, the Buffalonian grit right there.
There we go.